Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and today is Friday, February the 17th, and this will serve as our chart lesson for today. And it's really just a slow pre-holiday Friday. There's not much volume. You can see we opened, here's the open from yesterday. We traded up to about 1361, 1362, and we've got pretty, fairly strong support down here at the 1354, just above that area. You can see every time prices have come back and tested that, we've pretty much rejected it right down there. We tested it again, tried to test it again this morning, and we couldn't even get back down there. But let me back out here. I wanted to show you the big picture first. This is that's all there is for today. That's it right there. Just not much happening today. So I'm thinking that everybody started the President's Day holiday early. People want a break, want to get away, and that's what's looks like to me anyway. But you probably should have, by the time you had this low here with these closes, this line probably would have moved up to here. And you can see that would have got you a whole lot closer to finding this reversal here. I didn't mark any trades here because I didn't really like the setup, but you could have made some money entering there. But let me just go over the trades with you real quick. Even though there's not much happening today, it's still been a pretty good trading day. And you can see here's your highs, your double top up here. Here's your lows, your double bottom, your strong support. Your stronger support's really down along this area, but I generally move it up with the closes, and at one point you probably would have had this up here. At least you would have had another line here because that's the top of this trading range from yesterday afternoon and early this morning overnight trading. And you can see once we broke above it, we tested it twice, it held as support, and look what happened, took off, went higher. And so you would have had this line here, and that's why we got some support right in here when we came back down, because of the fact that we had this support from earlier, this double bottom here. So, and it's still acting as support. We broke through it, but it simply failed, and now prices are kind of headed higher. You can see really since probably noontime my time, and it's almost 2:30 now, we've formed maybe 10 bars, and prices have gone absolutely nowhere. So it's just kind of futile to try to trade in that, because the odds are you're just going to get stuck in a trade, or you're going to get on the wrong side of a trade. But anyway, let's start with our trades here. I don't know why that's... Our first trade was a double top here. This was the overnight high from the overnight session. It really happened early this morning, probably about 30 minutes before the open. But when prices tested that again, and actually before I get there, you might have had this trend line up through here, and you can see we broke it right here. Got one leg up, a little correction right there, and a second leg up, and tested it to a double top. So, you did have your trend line break, so you had that there to help you see that, hopefully. And you could have actually gone long right here, but this was actually a great long. I forgot to mark this one. This was really a pretty good trade right here. But you had a two-legged pullback to the EMA this morning, but this trend line pullback, or this two-legged pullback did break the trend line. So that should have been your clue to be thinking, maybe exit up here if prices stalled, which they did. So you did have a long right here, and I forgot to mark that one. This was actually a very good, this is a two-legged pullback to the trend line. It's a second entry long, and let me show you. Some of you asked me to show you some more details on second entry, so let me back out here and make this a little bigger where you can see this. But as you can see, you got a new high, so your count's 0. There's your pullback. There's your first move higher, so there's your first entry. There's your second leg down, and when it broke higher right here, that was the second entry long. So you could have gone long above that bar, or this bar. Any of those were good. It's a second entry long. It's a two-legged pullback, and hopefully you can see those two legs. There's leg one. Then you got your move up that reversed right here, and then there's leg two, and it's pretty much very close to a measured leg. This one went a little bit further, but it didn't close much further. If you just use the closes, it's a perfect measured move. And you'll see that sometimes, and but that's close enough to be really a great and almost an exact measured move right there. And so this was a second entry long, and that was an easy scalp. You didn't get anything anymore. If you took a runner, you might have got a point and a half, 2 points out of your runner, not much more. And then prices reversed. But coming off this double top here was a great setup, because anytime you get a double top, especially after a trend line break, it's generally going to be good. There's plenty of room here to scalp out before getting back down here to this low. And so that was a nice setup. And you probably didn't collect. Well, if you held these, you probably did get a runner. I can't remember if I had a runner off of this or not, or if I scalped out. I think I scalped out this one in full because the trend was still up at the time. But your entry would have been 60. Yeah. So, yep, you probably would have had a runner survive here if you held them. But I think I scalped out on that trade in full. I can't remember. But anyway, if you had a runner there, it would have survived, and you could have got 4 or 5 points out of it. And you can see, let me just show you this since we're looking at this much closer. There's leg one. Here's a two-legged correction in the middle. Your lows here, you got your first move up, you got your first leg down, then your second leg up, and that is actually a failed second entry long that reversed and closed on the very bottom, very bearish reversal type bar. So there's you a second entry short after a two-legged pullback, basically to the EMA, and then there's another nice move down. But here's your first leg, and you measure that, and you move it over here, and you got almost a nice measured leg down. Again, the market was a little stronger to the downside, so your down legs were, your second legs were, both times were a little stronger. But this was a nice long trap because you got your first entry long. The market's been in an uptrend, and a lot of people may not have caught that trend line break, and these two legs up to a new high right here. So they're thinking long, and that's another reason why you don't want to go long. You see, this is congestion right in here. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overlapping bars. This is a doji. That's close enough to be a doji. That's close enough to be a doji. That's close enough to be a doji, and that's definitely a doji. So with 6 bars in there and 2 or 3 of them looking like dojis, at least 2 of them for sure, no reason to go long out of that because it's very risky. And you see what happened. Prices broke up by 1 tick. They broke above this bar right here, went up 1 tick, instantly reversed and closed on the low. That's a terrible sign if you're long, and especially after 1 leg down and then 2 legs back, because that means you're probably going to get another leg similar to this leg, and that's exactly what we got right here was a leg. This leg was just a repeat of this leg, so that's your second leg down. And so this was a great short, and you see it move down rather quickly. You would have, I don't think you'd have got any runners on this one because prices moved down here and then traded back up in here for the breakout pullback. As you can see, we broke lower here and then we pulled back and tested it. It's hard to see because it's just stem in that 1 bar, but we pulled back and tested, and we also tested the EMA, and then it turned back down again. And when we got down here, you wouldn't have had this line in place here. That wouldn't have been possible, but you would have had your support from this little double bottom across here, and actually it would have been almost a triple bottom by this time. And if we move this line up here, you could probably see that right there. And so when we broke out, we pulled back and tested it and went down. But this is a failed breakout here that pulled back to the EMA. I didn't like this long because it was coming off this double top after a trend line break. If you took it, depending on if you kept your stop down here below the signal bar, it still would have worked. But you had to sit here and get stuck in all this chop, and you had to be, you know, if you tighten your stop at all, you got stopped out. It just really wasn't a great setup. Wasn't a bad. I mean, it wasn't. After 2 legs down, a lot of times that's what you're looking for, especially a failed break. But it just was not a great setup after this 2 legs down. So I didn't mark it. If you took it, it was okay if you kept your stop below. And this is what I'm always telling people about. Make sure the best place to keep your stop is below your signal bar. And you can see that right here. If you had your stop below that signal bar, you didn't get stopped out before you got at least a scalp out of this. But if you're tightening your stop in here, just the noise alone is going to stop you out. And so you don't want to give a trade too much room, especially when you're scalping. But at the same time, you can't keep your stops too close, or you just get stopped out just before prices go where you're expecting them to go. So you could have also entered right here on a second entry long after this double bottom. So this trade was okay too. I didn't mark it. I'm only trying to mark the really good setups, remember. And then this was, now we've got two legs back and a huge reversal bar right here. And this gave us our trend line. And if you copied that trend line and drug it down, or you could have got your trend line right here and copied it and drug it up, and you would have known this was coming right here. That would have been a good clue of where to look. And I do that a lot of times. What I'll do is I just take my line and draw it like so or whatever. And then if you move it up here, look at where that shows you right where that was going to reverse. And so you can, always try to, if you can't get a trend line off one side, try it off the other and drag it up. And a lot of times that would have given you this turn to the tick. But when this opened up here and closed on us very low, this was a great place to go short. And again, there's two legs. Let me show you the two legs here. We're always looking for two legs. Market's moving too. And really you had a double top across here and a failed break higher too. So there was another reason. Even if you didn't have this trend line, hopefully you could see this right here. You had a double top here. Prices broke above, failed, and turned back down. So you don't always even need the trend lines, but the more confirmations you can get, the better the trade usually is. And no runners on this one because prices came back. But you got a second chance to enter here. And this is another two-legged pullback. You got one leg up. Prices came back, came up again, and then went down. And so this was a great setup here. By this time, you should have known the trend line was here. This is right off the trend line. And your runners were good here, and they were good for probably about three points or so down to here. And then when prices stalled, obviously you want to exit. And we got a trend line break right here. And this is, I've talked about this yesterday. Sometimes on a trend line break, when it's not a real strong trend, and this isn't, because this is really just a range day, and you can see the highs are up here and the lows are really down in here, down in this area. They've kind of creeped up here a little bit on us. But that's still all the same. This is a range, and you can see we're headed back to the top side of this range, and that's where we're headed right now. And but anyway, we broke this trend line, and then we had two legs back that tested the top side of the trend line, and then the trend reversed. But it was also reversing off this double bottom. This is a breakout pullback long because we got a double top right here. You can see this was a little small trading range. Prices broke out, one leg back, one leg up, and then the second leg back, and it reversed right off this trend line, and then we started higher. And you could have gone long here, but it's best to wait on a second entry, especially after a trend line break, because there's a good chance prices could have come on back down and tested this and got a new low. But that didn't happen, and so when we got a second entry long right here, again off that trend line that we drew off these two swings, and that was a good sign. So go along right there, and your runner would have been safe on this too, and you could still be in this trade. I was done trading. I didn't take this trade, but it's a nice setup. Just after lunchtime, I was actually going to lunch during when this set up. And you can see you would have entered about 57, and this is all the way been to 60.50. So that's 3.5 points, and by the time it gets up here to this high, you may get 4 points out of it. I'd be thinking about exiting right here if this came back much further, because we do, if you copy this trend line and move it up, you can see we have broken above that now. So the odds are we may come on back down to this, a little lower now. I'll extend this on out. But that's kind of your channel right there. And that was pretty much it for the day. Even though there wasn't a lot of movement, there were still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fairly decent entries. There were actually some more trades in there that I didn't mark because they were a little more risky and not the best of setups. But there were still 7 easy trades. And even if you just got the scalp, that's and you only traded one contract, that's an easy 7 points today. And so study this chart lesson. I'm going to call it a day. We won't trade on Friday. I'm sorry, we won't trade on Monday. Monday's a holiday. The market will be open till about 10:30, but there won't be much volume, and it's just not worth it. Go take the day off, enjoy it with your family, get some chores done around the house, whatever. But I don't suggest trading on on Monday because of the short day, and you don't really have much time to make a lot of money. And who knows what will happen. Sometimes there's some good movement during those short hours, but to me, it's not worth the risk. It's like trading in the overnight session, and you never know what's going to happen, and you'll get some protracted moves that might surprise you, and if you get on the wrong side of one of those, you're just going to lose money. So it's better to take the day off with everybody else and enjoy it. The market will be back Tuesday, and you'll have plenty of time to trade the rest of the week. So take that Monday off. Will be no lesson on Monday, so I will see you again on Tuesday, hopefully. And hopefully you had a good trading day today. If you didn't, hopefully you started your vacation day, your long weekend early and got an extra day in there. But I'll see you on Tuesday. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.